Now, a really annoying thing about programming is actually copying code, like it or not. Imagine just taking a chunk of code and wanting to repeat it multiple times, but not in a loop, like actually a different instance of code. For example, if a player enters a specific area, I want to do something, but I want to do it when he enters another area and all. So actually copying the code could work, but say I want to change that something. I have to go back and edit on every single position where I copied it, which A is not feasible, especially if I'm using someone else's code, and B is really hard, especially on large scale projects and large servers. So that's why in programming we use functions. Functions are basically, I'm going to replace this chunk of code with this function name. So I'm going to call it, and then this chunk of code will be done. So if there's any edits, we just add this chunk of code, and it works on every single position where we actually use the name. And yeah, plus it tidies up everything. Rather than having 20 lines of code everywhere, we have 20 lines of code at one single position in code, and then just one line to just code it and just copy paste it basically wherever we want it to be. Now we've already worked with functions, as you can see right here, function onCreated. This is a special function that we'll dive deeper in this video about. But the way to write a function and to actually create one is simple. We're going to go function, which is the keyword. It turns red usually, it means it worked correctly. Give it the name, for example, say hi. Okay, then we close the parentheses, open the brackets, and everything that happens in between is the thing we're going to copy. So for example, we're going to do echo hi, and then player.chat equals hello at the same time. Well, now we need a way to actually use the function, because if I apply, nothing happens. So we're just going to take the function name, insert it in our code where we want it to happen, follow it by the brackets, and then just hit apply. As you can see, we do say hello, and if I open the menu, yep, it does say hi. And we can do it a lot of times now. If I just copy this code 4 times, yep, we said hi 4 times. And let's come back to loops, for example. Rather than just copying it like that, I can just insert it in a loop. And if we run this code, yep, we did say hi exactly 5 times. Now, when it comes to actual customization of a function, which is really the biggest use for it, right here, say hi is very static. It's just going to echo hi and just say hello. But what if we want to evolve this function? So to say anything we wanted to say on any occasion. So if I'm going to say, I'm going to change the name to say to be more accurate, and I'm going to give it something called arguments. Arguments are basically how many variables we want to give to a function that will only work inside this function. So right here, if I say the echoed message and the chatted message. Now, if I replace it right here, chatted, echoed. Now, if I'm actually calling this function, say, and let's go with the same hi and hello. If I run this code, exactly the same, hi and hello. But if I want to run it again differently, so if I want to say hi, right, I want to say hello world, and then hey, and run apply. Yep, hello world, and hey, exactly what I expected. And of course, this can be set at different position in code. So hey you, and apply. Hello world, we say hey because of the first say, the echo, and hey you because of the second say. Now, of course, as you've seen before, since player.chat has been rewritten, we're just saying this one and ignoring this one. That's just a player.chat thing. But yeah, now we can imagine the manipulation. So for example, a function could say teleport, and we could give it different coordinates. So for example, teleport to the hospital, or teleport to the map. Really, that allows the function to be really customizable and actually still do the feature. For example, you can do a specific check based on the player name, if they're allowed to go inside the room or not, like a VIP check or really a lot of things with the same actual function. Now there is something really cool about function as the ability to return values and actually come back with results. Now in the say hi method, say function, we're just basically using player.chat and echo. But what if we want to analyze the data that we've got? For example, let's create a function and call it add numbers. So we're going to give it number 1 and number 2. But something really weird is that, okay, so we're going to say that temp.result is equal to number 1 plus number 2. Now if we actually go ahead and add the numbers, let's give 5 and 6. If I want to check the results, so echo temp.results, we get nothing. There is no result. It's temp.result does not exist. And in that way, we can actually return. So when we return a value, okay, it actually comes back. So this, we have to write temp.result here, is equal to add number. Now add number will evaluate it. It will go right here. When we stop at the return, the function automatically ends. Everything that comes after it will be void and not existent, basically. And the numbers will be added, and their value will be given to temp.result. So now if we run it, if we apply, we get actually 11. Now something to understand. Say I go into a function test. Now temp.var1 right here only exists in the function named test because this variable is a temporary variable beginning from the name temp. Now if I actually name this variable in add number, the two variables are actually different. They're not the same. This is a cleanly new variable compared to this one. Why? Because a temporary variable only exists in between the brackets of its function. That's why it's temporary. And that's why right here temp.result will never show in the uncreated function because it does not exist there. So to change that, we can use global variables. Now global variables are written not with a temp, but actually with a this dot. Now, if I actually run this code and apply it, as you can see, it does show 11. Now, of course, this variable and global variables are really convenient because they work in any function. So in function test, this dot result right now will be equal to 11. And if I change it, let's say make it equal to 9, and then right here, write test, call the function. If I echo, I will get 9 because this dot result change. Now, these are some of the danger of using scoped variable because you can manipulate the global variable in unwanted ways before using it. But of course, with everything, there are perks for using them. They're easier, and you can use it to do checks on multiple functions without having to return and actually manipulate a lot of data. Now, there are special functions that exist, and the most important that we've already seen is onCreated. Now, these functions happen not only when they're being called, but also on specific events. For example, onCreated always happen once you apply the script and update it, or when the player logs in. So it's a really good starting thing to set up everything and get everything started. On timeout, the function on timeout will happen every time setTimer is called. Now, setTimer is a function itself. When we call it inside, let's say onCreated, we give it, for example, 2 seconds. And after 2 seconds, the events in onTimeout will happen. So let's say I say hi and then run this code. After 2 seconds, my player will say hi. If I say player.chat equal hi. Now, another special method is onPlayerChats. This method will only trigger when the player actually types something in the chat by pressing tab and then enter. Same with onKeyPressed with the value. For example, if I press the J, value will have a specific number attached to it, and this onKeyPress function will happen. So everything written inside of it will be triggered. And same with onUpdate. OnUpdate is a very special function because you need to actually write this.keepAlive equal to true for it to start working. And it will be called once on every single frame. Now this function only works inside the world's client and not on other clients. And it's basically the update function from Unity, if you're familiar with that. Now, as you can see, these are the most common special function that you're gonna use. But there is other functions. You can create your custom events, not just on timeout. And these are scheduling events. So for example, these events must start with an on. So on event triggered. And I can do whatever. Now you can use schedule event and actually pass it in a couple of arguments. First is the time in seconds, for example, right here after 1 second. Then it's the actual function that I want to trigger, which is event triggered. And then I can pass in all the arguments. Say there is an argument right here, so event time, for example. And we can say now or 1 second prior. Of course, you can create whichever you want, and you can really go with how many arguments you would like to give. It just depends on how many arguments are in the actual event that you're going to trigger. Now this will happen after 1 second, and it's a great way to create multiple timers if you'd like. And if somewhere else this timer must be stopped, for example, an on key pressed, if I press the button that I don't want to do the 1 second prior, I can use cancel events and then give it the name of the event, which is event triggered in that case. And this will stop the event. If it hadn't happened yet, it won't happen again unless scheduled event is called again. Now, these are basically how function works and how they're used in code and the most common functions you will be using and the special functions. Now, remember, functions are mainly used to clean up code and actually make it more friendly and usable. And yeah, I know this may seem as a lot of information, but any question you have, really, the Discord channel is really open and really welcoming with questions and ready to help you guys out.